Well, it was a lot of fun hosting the first tournament. It was a concept that I sort of had gotten from several other gaming sites, and up until that point on the MiniClip forum, you could challenge like a friend, or you could challenge a random, person to a game, and you might win or you might not, but there was really no type of competition like on a bigger level. And I thought it'd be so much fun to get all these guys involved in competing in something like that and see who the best one is, and everyone gets involved in it and everyone gets to have fun, you know playing in it, and it's a much bigger scale type of thing. And so I just thought, yeah, let's do this, let's try this, let's see how it goes. And so when I first introduced the idea, everyone was really excited about it, but no one really understood kind of what I was trying to do, because it was kind of foreign, and there were a lot of obstacles to doing it because people lived in different areas. Some people were in Europe, some people were in Australia, so some people were in the States. So I had to kind of work within that and find out uh, how the long the rounds were going to be. When I first started doing it, they were only 2 days. I had a gamer named Roger Federer who played in the first one, who kept he had a very busy schedule, and I can remember that he needed a time extension um, on the first round and the second round. So by the end of the second round, I was like, I need to make these rounds longer. That's not enough. 2 days is not long enough, because if most people can't fit the time in. Plus, they're getting a much better score if they have 3 days. They get that extra day, and they wind up putting a much higher score in. It's more competitive, and it just was obvious that it needed to be longer. So I made an adjustment from that, and I had to make other adjustments to explaining how the rules were going to work. I had a pretty good idea of how I wanted it to be in my head, but there were certainly still some things that had to be kind of ironed out and improved upon, and adjusted, as I went. I had to be flexible with it. But the first one was very successful. Everyone, I think, had a pretty good time, and for the most part, we got through it with very few hiccups. Um, and that was always a special one to me because there was a lot of positive energy, especially for the first few that I ever did. But the first one, had that type of new energy. It was new and it was exciting because of that. And I had a lot of people that were very, very, interested in doing it, and then they wanted to do their own competition afterward. And it just grew from there, and it was a really good feeling to be able to kind of bring that to other people that I wouldn't otherwise normally be able to meet. Um, for the later ones that I did, I can remember that they just became a lot really more involved. Every time I would try to outdo myself a little bit, I would introduce a new concept. I might have a trophy sig. I might make it more colorful or have a type of a theme. I was just making it more expansive. I've gotten to the point with this where I have now people from different forums who are coming together to compete with each other, who basically know me through my user account. And I tell them, hey, I'm hosting a tournament here on Armor Games. I'm hosting a tournament on Congregate. Can you make it? If they can, get them together and get those, different players competing against each other. Some of the best ones from one site will meet the best on the other site, and it's a much, much more advanced way of doing this than I ever could have really done when I started. It takes a lot of juggling to do it, but it's still a lot of fun to, for me. Um, and so those are some of the ways that it's changed. It's just gotten much more elaborate over time. Even in the second one that I did, um, that one was, it was more elaborate. It was bigger. It was about, I think I had 21 people sign up for that one. I only had 16 in the first tournament. Um, and I also was playing in the MiniClip World Championships, which was my second tournament ever. And that made it harder because I had to also learn how to do it as a player, and I was still kind of figuring things out as a host. It was only my second time doing it as a host, and I reached the finals in that one, and I played against a guy in the finals named CNX, who was a really good gamer, and I knew he was a good gamer. And I still felt, though, when I got to the finals that, I had a pretty good shot at that title because I had been playing probably the best of anyone, up to that point. But he was playing good, and I think he had at least won one round going into the finals. So I knew that he was going to give me a pretty good challenge, and he actually wound up giving me a much better challenge than I was expecting. We had a game that we had to play, which was MiniClip Rally, which is like a racing type of game, like a circuit racing game. And there's different cars that were better for certain tracks, and you had to kind of figure that part out. And the whole purpose of the game really was just to cut off as much time as you possibly could and figure out how you can take the shortcuts and get the time cut off. But what was really pivotal about that match was I got off in the lead, and he would beat my scores, but I would always come back from that. So he was never in the lead for that long. And even though he was, beating my scores, I was still able to kind of get that back, and I was in the lead longer than he was. And so I had kind of a momentum that was going forward with me and getting me through that match, and it made it much, much easier when I got towards the end. I could tell that I was winning, and I made sure that I had, my scores all set just in case he beat me again. But I was definitely pulling ahead there, and when I did win, it was a really great feeling. It was a feeling of satisfaction, of enjoyment, because I hadn't done that before in a gaming competition, at least, and it was a lot of enjoyment in just putting something together for people to enjoy. And I mean, even he had a great time. We have played each other now many times since then, and unfortunately not recently, but we played about a month after that in the MiniClip Masters tournament, and actually that was a surprisingly kind of an easier one for me because that tournament, the game that I was playing was Commando 2, and apparently it was actually not a strong one for him. I kind of assumed that it would be because he was good at most of these games, but he actually didn't put up as strong of a score as I was expecting, so he beat my first score, but I came back with a much better one, and he was not able to come close to it. So I think that was just a weaker game maybe for him at the time, because we played a few months later, and he almost beat me at Doodle in the Super Star Showdown. He actually gave me the toughest match of any of the people that I faced in the Super Star Showdown when I won it in 2009. But yeah, he was a lot of fun to compete against. We played with each other in the MiniClip League, and we're a really good team because we're two of the best competitors, certainly at the time, on that forum. I don't think anyone honestly even came close in terms of the tournament level. As for the tournament level, no one was coming close to what we were doing. Maybe some people had a lot more better players, better player page scores than we did, had more impressive looking scores at the time. Certainly there were people like that, but in terms of raw competitive ability, until DeJory came along later in that year, there was no one, in my opinion, that was on level with the two of us. And so it was a lot of fun getting to compete with him. And I think he definitely deserved that title that he later won against DeJory in 2010 at the Super Star Showdown. The fact that he was able to beat someone like that in a final said a lot about his gaming abilities. And I would love to have another match with him or compete with him at some other point. I don't think it'll happen personally because I don't spend enough, or I don't spend much time anymore competing, and I haven't seen him for a couple of years, plus that, old MiniClip form is kind of fallen apart or dead or something. So I don't expect to see him again, more or less, but it would be kind of a fun thing if it does happen to happen for some reason. Anyway, guys, I want to thank you for watching my interview today. I had a great time recording this. It was a lot of fun to reflect back on some of the things that happened, and it's really kind of surprising that it's been 5 years since I first started down this road. If you enjoyed this interview, please let me know because I'd be happy to do more of them in the future. Maybe I can even do some type of guest appearance thing, like have people that I've competed with in the past do like an interview with me or something like that. That might be a lot of fun. And I'm always looking for new ideas. I'm a pretty creative person, so if I can find an interesting angle to do with that, I'll certainly be open to trying it. But yeah, stay tuned. I'll probably have some more content up, in the near future. And thank you for watching. See you next time.